What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Huddle, where we come at you every week to discuss maintaining forward progress in your flooring career. With me, as always, Mr. Daniel and Mr. Jose Gonzalez out of Michigan. And this week,
Jose, you spell it Hosa.
yes, Jose with an H. No, this week we are continuing a series on relationships, and this week is on general contractors. So we're going to kick this thing off with a question. When you guys have started your dealing with general contractors in the past, how was the beginning of the relationship, and did you ever experience having to maintain that relationship a little bit differently? I say that because maintaining that relationship with general contractor, if you're doing a lot of work for a particular GC, it's not if you're going to have a conflict, it's when. And when you have that first conflict, maybe you're buddies and you've formed a good relationship, and then you got a problem, and this is the first problem you've come up against. How has that worked for you guys in the past? And I've got some stories on it as well. So yeah, why don't we start with that? How do you guys start your pick a relationship you've got with the GC, and how did it get started, and then how did you maintain a good relationship with them?
So I'm just going to start out with, fortunately for us, the relationship with these generals started prior to preferred flooring. So we were able to establish a relationship with them, and it wasn't always easy or nice, right? Because we kind of had to follow behind other installers that always made promises but didn't perform. So they just kind of, whatever you say, they're not going to respect it. But after we started preferred flooring, we had a better reputation then. So it was a lot easier to ask for certain areas, a lot easier. I don't want to say favors, right? Because we were a little bit smarter, a little bit older, more patient. We were able to feel out the situation and understand what direction the conversation should go. So that way we could meet their deadlines, and we can get the areas that we felt we needed, and that the areas that we felt we could have complete by the deadline that they set forth, or exceed their deadline.
So specifically, what was some of those? I mean, you guys obviously, like you just said, Jose, is they already had good knowledge of how you guys work and how you guys operate ahead of time. So they kind of understood you before they started writing you, before you got into the position where they're writing you contracts. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Gotcha.
As far as like the troubles, like flooring guys, man, we're cleanup crew, right? We get stuck with everybody's stuff. Got to move it, got to clean it. Electricians are our favorite people. Drywallers, painters. I mean, you name it. We have to deal with it.
So some of the common problems that we deal with is obviously rooms not being ready, like people's stuff in there. And I always say that, every trade thinks they have it bad, but flooring does have it a little tougher because everybody walks on the floor, right? You don't walk on the walls. You can have 2 or 3 painters in one room and a ceiling, an electrician putting in outlets, and no problem. But we take up an entire floor space, so a little bit more difficult. So getting areas cleaned out and ready for the crews, that's been a problem. Another problem is overspray from painters, and who's going to clean that up, and drywallers as well. All excessive drywall mud, if it's a little bit, it's going to come up with sander. If it's excessive, it doesn't. And or
I have
does, but it takes
videos of like piles, and it wasn't even drywall. It was like the fireproofing from them spraying.
Yeah, like dry fall and stuff like that too.
And it's like
Protecting the substrate from other people working. We fight a lot with the painters, especially if we're doing like, if a lot of our assisted living projects have painted wood base and they just go through and paint, and there's this thick thing of paint, you know, a foot off of the out onto the concrete, and it's got to come up. And instead of taking a 10-foot piece of cardboard with them to protect it as they spray, you get that. Now, setting those expectations early is good in pre-construction meetings and such. But and then cleaning out, having rooms cleaned out. You mentioned electricians; they're like notorious for coming in after we've cleaned a room and putting in outlets or something and leaving wire nuts and little pieces of electrical crap everywhere, and then they're gone. Took them 3 minutes. They're in and out before we even notice it, and then we got to re-clean the room. So those are some of the common problems, but that's with other trades. But it is the GC's, you know, it's their project, so that's who we deal with in those matters mostly.
I think, you know, like, especially since we're some of the last ones in there, what we don't really take into consideration when, you know, talking to GCs is how much they actually have to deal with. Like, we only have to worry about the floors, but they're in there and they're worrying about everything. So, and to go in there and be like, all right, I understand that you have to deal with everything, but I still need my stuff done. And just showing them that understanding can actually go a long way.
Yeah, and you had mentioned the
That's a
painters
point.
and the overspray, and you know, some of that too, like understanding the product that's going down and then relaying that to the general prior to that area being painted, primed. Or if you walk through on a progress meeting, you're doing a walkthrough, you notice that they're priming and they're spraying and it's everywhere. You say, hey, this can't happen. Like, I have to remove that. And some of them's like, just spill over. It's like, here's the information. I'm just going to send it over to you. Go ahead and read that. If and you can't defer responsibility, right? Because you're telling them what can't be done.
Yeah.
And that's where being upfront in your delivery can go a long way with a general.
Well, and you start to form those relationships as well. If you're in commercial, you'll see the same painters on jobs and the same electricians, and eventually you form relationships with those people too. And that's why relationships to us is so important. Like, I just go up to the head painter. I'm like, hey man, remember on that last job, you left me a bunch of overspray. Don't be doing that on this one. Okay, man, you know, or whatever. So it's like having relationships with the other subcontractors on the project is important as well. I think that tends to help as much as how you deal with your GC, because your GC sees that you're working with the other trades to work through problems and not always just going and attacking them on everything. And they tend to appreciate that a lot when you can work
I
together
think
with
that's
that.
probably more important actually,
I've
because
I've been seeing that a lot in the bids that come through, is them pretty much saying that it's your responsibility to get with the other trades to make sure that everyone's going to be working together. Like, they just, I guess they're sick of dealing with it, and rightfully so. Like I said, they got a lot on their plate.
Yeah, they still are the general contractor, and they are still, you know, there's a level of holding them accountable and I think that's the biggest dichotomy of this relationship thing with the GC, is holding them accountable to doing their job so that you're not, you know, tasked with doing it every single project, but at the same time doing enough that they know that they're valuable to you, that is the problem with that relationship with the GC as a client, is you want your client to know that you care about them and you give them a good experience. But at the same time, you have these dichotomies, these other things that you can't go above and beyond every single time, or else it's expected. And you're going to have to start figuring some extra money to cover all these additional costs you incur for cleaning out rooms or scrape, you know what I mean? So how do you guys deal with that balancing act?
I think it's just a matter of communication. Um, if if we're not happy with something, or we're able to have the foresight on a situation going in because we recognize a certain crew, or we've worked with X company a few times and we understand the nature in which their supervisors have them operate, it makes it a lot easier to foresee some issues and to bring them up in a professional manner. Also is making sure that there is a representative from the flooring side during some of the earlier progress meetings on some of the larger projects or even the smaller ones. So that way you can speak your piece in the beginning. So that way it's not a shock. You know, they're 4 meetings in and nobody from the flooring has shown up and represented themselves. So they've already prepped around all of that and we haven't had a say. So I think it's a matter of communication, representation, that kind of falls into play.
So being involved in the meetings, a lot of flooring people have bad reputation for that. I think flooring overall does. I know that even we struggle to get to every job meeting. We do between 400 and 500 projects a year, and we struggle to get to every job meeting. And so trying to get to a pre-con meeting, at least to set expectations, is the very minimum we try to get done. And then we go, there's certain jobs you kind of know where it's going to be an easy project. It's running smooth. It's all set up real nice. There's not a lot of dependencies, maybe it's new construction and you had a real good progress or a pre-con meeting and it runs well and you don't have to go to every job meeting. And then there's those ones you got to babysit and be at every single job meeting. So sometimes it can be tough. And I find that the balancing act is something we may have talked about offline, which is once you kind of do something for them, just don't do it and let it go, right? You said something about that, Daniel, like you follow it up with an email or something like, hey, we clean this area out or we scrape this.
And pictures are worth their weight in gold. I'm dealing with something right now on a project where there's moisture coming through, and I took pictures and stuff early on because I'm like, hey guys, there's some moisture issues going on here, and we're using something that, or they use something that you don't need to do moisture testing. So it's like, all right, if you guys are gonna be saying all that, I'm gonna do it, and I'm just letting you know that this is what's gonna happen, and now it's happening. So the conversation isn't I told you so, it's I have pictures. You can't really just blame it on me because I told you it was going to happen, but also what can we do in order to remedy the situation? What does the client want? Are we going to be able to get in there at certain times? Do they want a moisture test now? And it's becoming a partner in every aspect of the job. It's you're a partner with the GC, you're a partner with all the other trades, because everyone, it all boils down to everyone is there to make money. The GC is there to make money, and we keep on calling it GC, but it could be a CM, construction manager, but it's a broad term that we use. We call everyone GCs because that's what we've always called them. But it's a partnership, because if I know they're making money, I know I can make money. We know they can make money, as long as everyone's working together.
Yeah. So those partnerships, what makes it a partnership is the fact that you guys that we all have a common goal, right? Like the common goal is to get the job done in an efficient manner and make money. Like most of what matters the most. And this is another point I had written down. Understand what's important to your general contractor or your construction manager or whoever you are working with. In this conversation, we'll keep that to CMs and GCs, construction managers and general contractors, or CM at risk as a overall, builder, commercial builders. What is important to them? I can tell you on most jobs, and each one will have some other things, but on every job, it's going to be schedule and budget,
Yes.
right?
That's, I think that's.
You're not going to get away from those two. And
Yeah.
then others will add some more to it. But those two, if you know your GC's biggest, especially your on-site contact, so your superintendent or project foreman, their main goal, man, is to get the job done. They don't care about much else. How do they get the job done efficiently? And if you can pose your problem as a almost as a solution, meaning, hey man, if you can make sure that the painter protects the concrete, it's going to make us come in and out. We can get done with this area in 2 days, in and out, and you can turn it back. We can turn it back over to you. But if we have to spend 2 or 3 days removing paint, it's just going to make this longer. And then you're kind of giving them a benefit to take care of the problem, so that you, knowing that schedule is their big concern. That's worked well for us in the past. I think that also working with the other trades that we mentioned earlier, if you can go up to the painter and make him aware, and then you're still able to turn over that area in 2 days. And they, a lot of times we've worked with GCs and they're like, man, I didn't think it would go this fast. It's sometimes they just don't realize how much you can get down in a day if you have high quality crews on it. And so a lot of that's communication, like you mentioned earlier, but it's communicating the right message.
Right. And it's communicating, letting them know what you're going to have done, and also getting done what you say you're going to have done.
Yeah. Under promise and over deliver. That's for sure the best way to go. And when you over deliver, you do kind of set expectations for the next project that they'll see you on. But you, like, I don't want to say you, but I like to go back and say, hey, I don't want to promise that because there's variables in there that we just can't factor in yet. So I'm still going to say this is a 7 working day project, knowing in my head that I want to try to get it done in 5, 6 or 5, still going to be 7 days in my head. But the goal is to get it done before that 7. Then you're the savior. You've gone above and beyond, but you've really done nothing but stay on task.
Yeah. And so when we've talked about the day-to-day interaction as a relationship, what do you guys do for GCs to show them you appreciate them?
Bring them tacos.
Yeah, we're taking them out to lunch.
I think just general conversation, man. It can't always be about work. If you're a people person, you're going to be able to read a little bit of the energy that they're pushing out, right? If they're under a little bit of stress when you're having a conversation, I like to just comfort them a little bit, not like, give them a hug and cry on my shoulder, man. No, it's more like, hey, dude, hey, I know you're under a lot of stress. I see it. So don't worry, man. Let's work together. We got this. We're here to have your back. So that way we can make you look good. We want to make sure that your client loves what you're doing. We want to make sure that everybody else here is happy with you. But in order to do that, these are the steps that we need. And this is what we would like to see in order for us to be more efficient. If you're going to use me to push everybody, then just know that I need the floor to do the floor. And once I get it done, you can cover it up. You can have it back, depending on what material, you can have it back pretty quick. But just give me this area and then you can store whatever you want in here. Just let it sit.
And that goes back to the relationships too, right? Because you said, what do we do for them to show them that we appreciate them? We were on this project, and it's the first time we ever worked with this guy. We've worked with numerous other people within the construction company, but it was like he had a lot of pushback. And at one point he was like, "Can you just do this?" And I said, "No." And then he was like, "No, you're gonna do this," and then walked away. So what did I do? What I wanted to do. And I closed off an entire area. And this was, first thing in the morning. And by 3 o'clock, he came back over there. He was like, "You really got all that done?" I said, "I told you I was going to get it done." And that was, the building of that relationship. And then the last project we were on with him, and, we had regular meetings, and in the meetings, he pretty much, he started with me, "Daniel, what do you need?" Let everyone know, because you're pushing, like you're running this project.
Yeah, that's both. good and bad to that too. You being the driver, because then execution, like you have to execute. So you know, you get a crew that gets sick, or you get an installer that doesn't show up.
It was during COVID, so it was okay. I did get COVID.
Yes, he did.
So, yeah, just to touch a bit on one thing with general contractors. If anybody that's watching this hasn't dealt with general contractors on contract projects, so you get a contract from a GC. Contractually, you know, there's rules to, you know, bid rigging, or that what they feel might be encroaching on ethics and such. So just remember, if you offer something to a general contractor and they refuse it, it doesn't always mean that they don't want it. It just, they don't want to appear to be being bribed or something like that to give you work. We've ran across that a few times on some larger general contractors where, you know, we'd drop off gifts during Christmas and stuff, and we've actually had them say, "Hey, we don't accept gifts from subcontractors." And we're like, "Okay, we get it. You know, you just got to understand they don't want to have any perception that they're, you know, that you're bribing them for work." And that's not a bad thing, but we have had that happen. And so as you're building, the best way to build a relationship, and the reason I asked that question earlier, is there's not a lot you can do with them outside of just being authentically building a relationship with them. Like you mentioned, Jose, like actually talking to them about stuff other than work, and you know, performing and the day-to-day work that you have with them on a project, showing them you care and those things, and that you're executing and over delivering and under promising, as you mentioned. But sometimes you can't gift them. Sometimes you can't. We used to do this thing, I think I've mentioned it prior podcast at some point, but we used to do this thing called it was called Wichita Trivia. And so we'd send out an email every single week to all of our general contractors, and it'd be a simple question about Wichita, our hometown, and its history. And whoever won would get one of our season tickets to the Kansas City Chiefs game for the next home game. We had a GC call us. One of his project managers had participated. The owner calls me and says, "Hey, we don't do this. It's not allowed." I said, "That's fine. We'll take him off the list. We understand. We're not doing any," but I do want to point out, this is, everybody has equal chance. This is a trivia and not a gift. So the only way he wins is if he has the right answer and he's the first one. But he still didn't want to cross any lines. So you'll run across some of that stuff. That program died because the Kansas City Chiefs at the time were terrible, and people started saying, "Hey, we don't really want to go to that game." At the time, we were like 4-12. So yeah. Anyway.
No, and I guess I didn't realize that we have gifted quite a bit of, you know, our merchandise to everyone, and it's typically usually around the holidays and stuff like that, or, you know, just randomly on different projects. We're working with this guy, bring him a hat and a cup, stuff like that. Someone is always like, "Oh man, your guys' hoodies are so awesome," and then you just lock that in there, so that way in the next project, here goes a hoodie.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I don't really think about it as bribing, because for me, from a personal perspective, you know, playing softball, I've gifted umpires some of my knucklehead apparel, you know,
Yeah.
hats and stuff like that, shirts, even some of the other jerseys that I've designed, and not with any expectation that I'm going to get any type of preferential treatment. Because if anything, they're harder on me after that, because they don't want anybody to think that there is a special treatment there. But just because they like it, and like you said, you remember that, oh, you know, they like this hat, they like this jersey, I just happen to have an extra one. Here you go. I don't need it. I mean,
Yeah, and for the most part, I think it's, most of the time it's accepted. I just wanted to kind of throw it out there that if you
Right,
get
sometimes
shunned,
it's not.
if you get shunned, don't take it personally is my point.
And
There,
you
and
know
it's usually the very large GCs, like our other negotiated GCs, they're like, take me golfing and take me out to dinner. I'm good with it, and that's all cool too. But just if you try to gift a general contractor and they turn you down, I would recommend not doing that out of the gate. Like the first time you meet them, don't do that.
Yours never
Build a
be good time.
relationship and then figure it out. But at the end of the day, if they deny it for that reason, just don't take it personally. Just understand that there are general contractors that want to keep crisp lines of their fiduciary duty to the owner when they sign a contract with the owner to give them the best value of their project. They want to make sure they're not crossing any of those lines. So don't take it personal.
And I can see from a work perspective too, that it does, when you don't feel like you're personally invested in someone or a company or emotionally invested, it's a lot easier to make the logical decision, or to stand your ground on something you need to, any issues or potential issues, when you don't feel that there's a relationship that could be ruined there as well. So I get it.
Yeah.
I mean, floor guys like swag, right?
Yeah.
Prove
Prove it.
flooring, go Carrera, and
We
then
love our swag.
and
My son took my hat.
You guys got some of the best swag in the business. I just got a question texted to me. I don't know if they're unable to comment, but hold on a second.
Yeah, any questions are great.
Yeah, so what about when the GC is asking you to do something that's not best long term for the owner?
That's actually a pretty good question.
So that is I'm reading into this as, hey, just install it or just do it type stuff, and you can't because in 3 to 5 years it's going to fail. Maybe it gets you past your warranty, but at our company we care about the end user because we know if we care about them enough, it's taking care of the GC. But there's sometimes a conflict there, so I think that's where the question kind of comes from is, what if what the GC is asking you to do is not the best long term for the owner of the building that's going to be occupying the facility?
we've ran into this a lot, right? And early on, as we were, a subcontractor to other flooring stores, so we were, subbing out only, we weren't full service. It was always them pushing us, probably because the GC was pushing them. And it was then when we were like, when something isn't going to perform the way that it needs to, that's your name on the line. That's no one else's name on the line, right? So we've been through it to where even though the flooring store told us to do it, we're getting thrown under the bus. So that was kind of the end of that, where it was like, all right, if I know it's not going to perform the way it needs to, I'm not going to do it. And then when we started getting pushback from that, it's when you start expanding your knowledge even more. It's like, I'm not going to do it, and this is why, and this is where you can find the information. So
So how have you specifically dealt with that? Like, you don't have to name names, but a specific scenario where.
So we do quite a bit of work in hospitals, right? So it's like, look, man, if we do not do this, you have to start looking at the patients that are in here and the health and their health, right? Because going back to moisture, we were on a project where there's a moisture issue, and you can tell, like, it has resilient on it now. You rip it up, patches all crumbling and stuff like that, right? And then it's like they always come with, well, it looked fine before, why can't you just make it look like that again?
Yeah.
And it's like, listen, like,
that's my most dreaded response.
It's a simple answer though.
I know, but it's just like, it looked good before. Why do you have to remove this pressure sensitive glue that's over broadloom adhesive? The other file did just fine.
and you just have to look at them, and it's like, think about, like, money aside, it's doing the right thing, man. You got to have some integrity sometimes. And then, like, in the hospitals, it's like, this moisture is going to affect the air quality, because hospitals HVAC is running 24/7, and all it's going to do is keep on moving that stuff around everywhere. So you want to remedy the situation now, or really you're looking at if lawsuits can be spawned at any time, right? And if the more you dig, the more you're going to find out. So
Yeah, certainly for neglect.
It's just a matter of educating them, the implications that they're putting themselves under, right? It's going to last you this window, or you don't have to worry about it anymore because we're gambling. Now you're going to be here and you want to gamble, or we can just take care of it and there is no gamble.
and the
I
biggest
think
thing is, you know, they're always like, well, are you going to do it? And especially, you know, these past few years, we're like, no, like, this is where our contract ends, and then you can find someone else.
Yeah. I remember the exact job that started out, like I remember when we decided that that was going to be we're not doing it. And then Daniel never lost a dime on a job I didn't take.
I think what you mentioned earlier, the why, is a big piece to this. I had a job where we're going into an area that was an old kitchen, so it had drains and, you know, slopes to drains, and it's being turned into an area that's going to have cubicles and carpet tile. And I told them that we would have to level out every drain so that it's good and level. And the response was, just patch it, and we're okay that we're gonna, because I said, you know, you're gonna see some gaps, and you know, because when you go down into a valley, it's going to, you're covering more square inches, so it's going to gap on you. And so we explained that wasn't enough, and they were like, well, we're fine with that, and so we're the owner be. So I got the furniture plan, looked at that, and there's going to be people sitting where these drains are, and I was like, do you realize that if we do this, people are going to be like going this way? Their chairs are going to be just moving around. And you know, after they got that why, it's like getting the right why. They were like, okay, well, let me go present it to the owner. I think part of the why, and what the reason I drew that all out, was because the why is what they need to go to the owner and feel confident and asking for more money under given circumstances as well. So it's not always the GC is just going to pay you out of their pocket. They're trying to recoup the money from the owner, so they need your why.
And you know, there's been projects lately where that's happened, and it's like, they're like, all right, we need you to kind of dumb it down for us. And then once I do that, they're like, okay, this is something we could take to the owner. And that's how that conversation is. All right, now we can go talk to him.
And I've actually brought up a few times in the past couple of years as well that if this is what you want me to do, then all right, well, let's just have a meeting. Let's get the owner involved. Let's all have a sit down and let's explain to them. Because if you want me to explain it to them, so that way you're not the bad guy, you're not the messenger, I have no problem doing that. Because I don't know how many owners of large buildings or any facilities are going to cut some of those small corners if they're not getting the full value out of their install. They're not going to want to hear it could fail or it is going to fail.
Well, and later it's all excuses. Now it's, you know, on the front side, it's the why. On the back side, it's an excuse. So if you do it and it fails, or you do it and the end user has a bad experience with what you did, then everything you say seems like an excuse, as opposed to presenting it on the front side. It's the reason why you want to do it a certain way. And sometimes it's not always money. It could be just a schedule situation. They don't want you to do it because they want you done tomorrow, and what you're proposing is going to take an extra 2 days or something.
But that's where it's nice to have multiple things in the toolbox and not be so set on, you know, one manufacturer or something like that, because there's plenty of times where, like, this is available and this can work right now. It's right here.
Mhm.
You know, does it cost more? Yeah, but
It's
we're gonna stick to that schedule.
Yeah.
Daniel
Yeah,
said,
being creative with that brings up a good point. Being creative with solutions to the problems that are inevitably going to come up on projects. The GCs really, any general contractor will appreciate your efforts in being creative with solutions when it comes to either budget or schedule.
a
Many
solution is
times, I'm sure you guys have been through value engineering on projects, and sometimes it's schedule, sometimes it's, trying to get the cost down. And either way, when you come with creative solutions, they certainly appreciate those types of deals too.
Especially when it's both, when it's this carpet is in stock and it's going to save you $8,500. They
Yeah,
love
that's
that one.
yeah,
that's what we like to call a win-win.
that's what you like to call it, the building blocks of a great relationship.
Yeah, and that's pretty, you know, those are it's awesome when you get into those scenarios where you can provide a true win-win, cheaper or more affordable. I hate using that word cheaper, but it's more affordable and it's going to save you. It's available right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to know your options, especially now with all the shipping issues, all the freight woes and material shortages, and
Yeah.
great options.
So if you had a GC sitting across from you right now that you did not know, what would you guys say about yourself to kick off a good relationship with them?
I guess this happens quite a bit. We just had a meeting a couple weeks ago with someone that called us, and we try and say that we're transparent, right?
Mhm.
And we're not gonna try nickel and diamond because we've been on the other side of that when that's what that company's doing, and we're trying to tell you how to do it right. This is my number, man. This is pretty close to where it's going to be, if not a little cheaper for you. And that's what you get with us. Not only that, it's our work really speaks for itself. So it's not go in and, hey, let me get this huge project that's like our buddy Brian Westmas told us, a few years ago. He's like, man, I don't need the whole job. Just give me a closet. Let me do that closet. Let me go blow your mind with this closet. Then we can talk about something else. But let me start out with getting my foot in the door. Give me at least something, so that way we can start out a relationship.
Yep.
So I've actually had excuse me, I've actually had conversations with general contractor before that went something to this extent. You guys, them talking to me, they say, you guys, your quality is excellent, but you're difficult to deal with.
We've
And,
had that.
and I said, well, in what regard? Well, you guys are there's always a problem on a job, and with other contract flooring companies, we don't have those problems. And it typically comes from, we moisture test everything and there's a moisture problem, and here's a solution. We try not to bring a problem without some solutions. Or this needs leveled, or this needs skim coated, or this needs floated out. This is not in the bid, this is. And I said, I can't speak to what the other flooring companies are doing. I can only tell you that we are factory trained people. We understand flooring. We've been in this a long time, and we just want what's best for your owner. We don't want to shortchange the job, and this is the reason why. And they tend to understand that, but somehow you have to make it pleasant for them to deal with you in some ways. So we've loosened up, softened the message. Some of it was our delivery. Some of it was our guys, our field staff being too blunt, like, nope, we're not doing it until we do this.
Yeah, there's definitely a way to deliver that.
Yeah, just soften the message a bit, deliver it a little bit differently, and understand that what they care about. They care about their schedule, and you're trying to blow it up. or they care about their budget and you're trying to blow it up. So you got to recognize what you're doing and then deliver appropriately.
No, we're just messengers, man. The floor
They
is going
they
to tell
also
a
don't
story.
they also don't like feeling like you're holding their job hostage, right? And you're not trying to, but it can feel that way to them sometimes. So I don't know. Those scenarios are a lot of case by case matters on how you deal with them, but sometimes you got to put your foot down and do the right thing for the project, even in conflict with your GC sometimes.
So in my experience, through that scenario right there, someone who's been in charge of projects a little bit longer and has pushed that, like, hurry up, get it done. I don't care. And has had that experience with not just flooring installers, but contractors who are just say, okay, the yes contractors. Yes, sir, right away. I'll just go ahead and do it wrong for you because you're asking me. They've already had their fair share of failures. And as they get older and smarter, they understand, stop. All right, let's explain this a little bit more. Like Daniel said, not necessarily dumb it down, but let's put it in terminology that can be expressed across this boardroom so everyone can understand it. But then you get the new guys who have just been put in a position of leadership and they're trying to flex their muscles.
Assert dominance.
Yeah, they're trying to make a name for themselves. They're just like, no, my way or the highway. But at the end, they are going to still, no matter if they are going to dinner with you 3 nights a week and shaking your hand, when they're put underneath that much pressure, they're going to bust, and they're going to put it on whoever's in that trade. It's not going to be like, I told them not to do that. They say the issue was brought up, they never came with a solution, so I figured that everything was taken care of. There's always a workaround as far as verbalizing somebody else's responsibilities.
Yeah. Well, I like your guys's attitude towards GCs as being a partner, as understanding their needs, and you try to, make life as easy for them as possible, but not at your own demise. I mean, that's kind of how we look at it. We try really hard. Not too long ago, a specific situation has come up, a couple of years ago, when all manufacturers used to have, if you're abating a asbestos floor and you use chemicals, they would have different ways you could skim coat and that. Well, they've all completely, like Mohawk, the big manufacturers completely said, do not install our product over chemically abated floors. Yeah. They don't have a solution. So now you got to go search for a solution. And we had this situation come up when Mohawk, this was a Mohawk project, had first basically said that year that no more of our products can be installed over chemically abated floors, period. They didn't really have a solution, but that was the problem. We ended up finding some different solutions through multiple manufacturers, from Pay and some others, scouring agent with a primer system. We came up with solutions, and now there's more solutions as that goes on. But it reminds me of what you said earlier, that like it looked good before. And so I that's what I got told, is we've done this plenty of times, and I've been doing this for 20 years and we've done it this way. I understand, sir. And I understand that maybe a lot of your projects haven't had failures, but Mohawk or these other big manufacturers have had, and it's not just Mohawk, all the big boys did this, but they've had enough failures from this that now they've separated themselves from the problem entirely. So it does fail. It can fail. And so here are some solutions. And we had to work through that. It was a church project with a very good GC of ours. And it kind of was a tough one, man, because we had to explain to them why this has always been okay in the past and now it's not.
Mhm.
And so those scenarios come up, and it only works. I shouldn't say it only works. It works best if you have a good relationship with them and you show them, and you have shown them in the past, that you're only trying to do the right thing and not make an extra dollar off the thing. You're just trying to do what's right for the owner.
Right. And I think that's where a lot of the training comes in, right? Because you're constantly educating yourself, and then
Mhm.
you're taking that education to the GCs. Um, One of the GCs that we work with, if you look in their quality standards manual, they contacted me to kind of go over it, and before they published it, and every single flooring picture in there was one of our projects, something that we did. And then, for them to reach out to us and say, hey, can you, in Division 9, to make sure that that this pertains to what you guys are pushing out there. And not only that, it's like this other project that we're on it, and we're having issues now where with the moisture, and it's like, well, how do you know that's what it is? I'm certified. I'm certified to test the concrete.
Because
So
it's my
I
job to know.
yeah. And they're like, oh, we didn't know that. Well, yeah. So when I tell you that, these things are going to be happening and stuff like that, I'm not doing it just to, like you said, I'm not trying to just pad my pocket and nickel and dime you. It's, man, we can remedy this situation
Yeah.
now and not have to worry about it
So
later.
any GCs or CMs out there that join us or see it later on, just to let you guys know, no flooring installer wants to add more onto their list when they're going in. So if you're like mad at them because you feel they're nickel and diming you, trust me, they do not want to do any mitigation systems. They do not want to go
I
do all
tell
extra work. Like, we don't want to do that. It's just a matter of protecting ourselves. Our livelihood is at risk.
I tell them all the time, we would love it nothing more than if we just come in and the job's ready and the concrete's fine and everything's hunky dory and we come in and knock it out. That
Yeah.
is our ideal solution or our ideal situation. Adding 3 days of that they don't have in their schedule of mitigation and leveling is not ideal for us. That's not,
Hey,
we don't want the added pressure. It's not worth the little bit of money that you do make. I'd rather go in and it be ready and everything be perfect.
Well, sometimes, the little bit of money you make doing that still costs you a bunch of money that you could be making on a different project.
yeah, it messes
Yeah,
your
exactly. And I'm glad you guys said that. I'm glad you actually talked to the GCs there, Jose, and told them. I mean, the fact is we don't want that. We'd just soon it be ready and we come in. We're most efficient, make the most money when we sell you product and go install it efficiently and we bill you and you
Right. Like,
experience.
ideally, if we could walk in a job site and start installing, we'd be happy.
Yeah.
You
And
know what?
you mentioned training earlier, and I think that's a good spot to throw out that a lot of what you guys have said and a lot of what I speak to is the stuff that's in the CIM, right?
Yeah.
A lot of that, how you deal with people and building relationships, there's good aspects of that in the CIM training. So again, just to remind the audience, we have the Forward Progress Scholarship for the FCICA's CIM program, and that stands for Certified Installation Manager, but it's really great for project managers, install managers, and installers. If you guys can get that, go. I wish, I'm hoping that a ton of installers go and apply, because you understanding what the field people are thinking or the office people are thinking, a lot of them have been through similar training or that training. So you understanding how they've been trained will help you deal with a store that you may be subbing work out of or what have you. So
It gives you a
everybody go and sign up for the Forward Progress Scholarship. It's a $1,300-ish value, and it's a great program. So
and it's and just to shed a little bit of light on that too, it's like a bird's eye view of someone else's responsibilities. It puts you in someone else's shoes for a little bit, so you're like kind of like the ghost of Christmas past, right? You're up here watching it and you're learning what's going on, and you can see where some corrections could be made, or you can go about things a little bit differently to help yourself and help the company be more profitable, help yourself be more efficient. It's just a good program.
Yeah. And it's no different than the reason why you guys may an office person may go get trained on the actual installation methods, or go through a training to install something, because we want to know how it happens. This is the installer's opportunity to do the same, like go and figure that out. Who you got with you there?
This is Macy.
This is my youngest, Macy.
Hi, Macy.
She has no chill. She don't care that we're live right now.
This is Voltron right here. Come say hi, Voltron.
That's my son, Caleb.
Hey, Caleb.
And this
Nice
is
to
my
meet you. Welcome to the huddle, guys. This is a true huddle. Now we have a big team together.
Right. Then we did, Dirk did ask a question about giving away his some of his apparel, but he's a residential installer, and he's been thinking about giving his t-shirts to his clients. He doesn't know if that's a good idea or not, but I think it all depends on, you know, if your clients actually want one.
And it depends on how good of a job you did too, Dirk. Like if you didn't do a good job, don't give it to them. But
well, I think that in general, it's you got to give them something that they're going to value, and not something that you value. So, you know, sometimes giving away your swag with some generals, or some clients, I should say, it's, you know, absolutely, you know, something they want, and then some may not. So
I think that's where a lot of this stuff comes in, right?
yeah,
Something like this that's useful for everyone that they're going to use, and then not necessarily a shirt that they're going to have in their closet or just give away at some point. So if they say that they want a shirt, definitely give them a shirt. But something like this that's going to be useful to them, you know, on a daily basis is more valuable. With as far as the shirts and stuff, I'll take a shirt. I'll represent.
Me too. I'll tell you one little trick that I seen. I didn't do it, but I'm going to steal it. So I noticed a GC wearing a Carhartt with his logo, with the General Contractors logo, and then real small in the sleeve is the sub's name. So he made it for him with his logo on it, and then he put the supplier put their name on the side here, just real small, not so small you
a little
can't
more
read it.
personal. Take their
I thought that was kind of clever.
Sew a patch on right in front of them. Just sew it on.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty clever. All right, well, guys, we have come to the end of the podcast again. I want to tell you both, I appreciate you guys coming on and sharing your experience. I hope the audience got some valuable little nuggets. I mean, a lot of this stuff is find that one nugget that might help you in your next interaction with your client. And if so, it was worth your half hour or hour that you spent on this podcast. I can guarantee you that. So
I think that, you know, if they look at it as everything that they do is a partnership, they're not ruler of the world. They're not the almighty. It's all right. How can I help you help me? Mm-hmm. Like, how can we do this together? I think that'll open things up to better opportunities later on when they're working with GCs, because that's 100% what's happened to us. And it makes it so that way they know that you're not just there to let me just do everything I have to do real quick and run over everyone. It's like, let's make this a machine. How can I be part of that machine?
Another takeaway for me for an experience, and I just wanted to share this real quick, is we were on a project one time, and this was through another flooring company, and the guy who hired us, I was letting him know the issues and the potential solutions, and what he told me kind of stuck with me. He said, "You're always trying to give someone gold when they can only afford bronze." And my rebuttal to that was, if bronze is all they can afford, it's still their investment, no matter what, right? Now, we didn't do very well on that job, labor only. We didn't do very well. We didn't come out on top and hit a number that we needed to hit. to appear profitable. However, we over-delivered. We went above and beyond for the client. And regardless of the company that introduced us to them, those people remembered that. And that company that could only afford bronze can now afford platinum. And we are a preferred vendor for them. So it's just some of those little things right there that can go a long way. You're building relationships now that might not help you for 2 years, but you're still building it.
Well, there you go. That's an investment that's your gold investment on your side, right? I mean, that's the
Yeah.
investment you put into your client for long-term relationships.
And they're asking for the link for the program. I think I'll go ahead and copy and paste it on the streams that are live right now, so that way people can do it. And I mean, Go Career's been blasting out some stuff, so
What's the best way?
We would love to see more people actually on here and talking and asking questions. I mean, live is great too, but once you get on, the mailing list for Go Carrera, then you're gonna get these things, get reminders. Hey,
Mhm.
don't forget, sign up for the scholarship.
Yeah.
'Cause
So
I get them even though I can't.
there you go. Me either. So in most of our social media, it's in our bio. So on our Instagram,
Right.
if
Even
you're on
on
our mailing list, we'll get it that way. If you let's see, so we got one more podcast before but before it closes on the 15th, I think. Is that correct, Ashlyn?
Yeah.
So we have one more. Maybe we'll start it with tossing it up somewhere. Maybe we can change your screen image and put the link on as your screen image, and everybody can. Yeah, and if you get the FCICA emails, they're even sending it out. So
Yeah.
look for that.
And then on the podcast platforms that I put it out on too, I have a link in there as well.
Yeah. So
even if you don't watch us live, like some of these guys, we see a lot of the same guys every week, but it's out there.
Yeah, well, people are watching it. Maybe we'll put it in our bio and on YouTube as well, because I know that some people are going there and watching it later. So we'll add that. We'll add the link to our YouTube channel today. So hopefully that helps some people out to get on and sign up for that scholarship, guys. So all right, guys. Appreciate you again. We'll see you next week. And I feel like with the huddle, we ought to at the end go ready, break. All right, see you guys next week.
All right, take it easy.
Bye.